Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, a better way to eliminate debt. And today we are going to be going over a very special show, the disease of debt, and looking at debt as a kind of a different perspective. And it was there some intention in teaching debt or having us understand debt in a way that actually keeps it around, that actually causes it to linger, actually causes it so that we would actually pay more interest than we need to pay. We're going to be looking at this from a different perspective today. So if you are on audio and you want to see what we're doing, please go to YouTube so that you can watch what we're doing here. So you want to be able to see our descriptions of what we're talking about. Okay, so let's get ready to start. So if you want to have a new perspective, if you want to know the truth about what's really going on, if you want to know how we have been conditioned to stay in debt forever, even with the modern education that we have received. Oh my goodness, it was given to us for a purpose, and that purpose was not for us to manage debt. The purpose was for us to stay in debt our entire working lives. So if you want to know the truth, hang out. All right. We are back. I need you to listen. I'm going to put this back on the screen one more time. The disease of debt and the cure. Listen, these folks are going into the hospital. The cure is the P.I.L.L method, cloud-based AI computing, and the education that we provide. So I need you to take a look at the screen. And as we go over this today, oh man, we're going to start with the description of today's show. So let me go ahead and put that on the screen. Get set up for this. I think you're going to like this information. Okay. So let me put this on the screen, add this. There we have it. Okay. The disease of debt. Now, I'm going to be talking about the disease in terms of what's called a monoculture. And in a monoculture, when it comes to plants, that means there is very little genetic diversity. And when you have little genetic diversity, meaning the plants have the same genetic makeup, they have the same immunity to diseases or pests. So when you have a lack of diversity, when a disease comes in, it can devastate not only crops, but it can devastate animal populations. It can devastate even humanity, because we don't have the immunity it takes to combat that disease. Now, it wasn't too long ago, back in 2020, where a pandemic just gripped not just this nation, but the entire world. Why? Because we had no immunity to COVID-19. And when there's no immunity, then what happens is everybody gets sick, and a lot of people will end up dying because of a lack of immunity to a particular disease. All of this we're going to be talking about in terms of how something that's hidden in plain sight can cause the same type of problems when it comes to information. All right. So when we look at debt, when we look at amortization, when we try to understand what's going on with this, I want to take a look at it from a historical perspective. Now, in cheetahs, I found out by doing some additional study that cheetahs exhibit extremely low genetic diversity compared to other mammals. This low genetic diversity is akin to a concept of monoculture in plants. Okay. Now, it causes, and what causes this was a bottleneck in how cheetahs have procreated over the years. Cheetah populations have undergone at least 2 significant genetic bottlenecks in their history. Let me put this on the screen so everybody can see. Okay. All right. Let's see. The first bottleneck was a few thousand years ago, and another one was a few centuries ago. These events drastically reduced their population size, leading to inbreeding and the loss of genetic variation. Now, just a few years ago, scientists started studying why cheetahs, the fastest animal on the planet, started dying off and getting sick in not only zoos but in the wild, and the populations were decreasing instead of increasing. So they found out that now they did some testing, and in these tests, they found out that when they looked at the DNA, there was virtually no distinction between one cheetah and another cheetah at the DNA level. It was like they were all related as twins. They were like brother and sister, even though they were living miles apart in the wild. So even though they were living miles apart in the wild, there was very little genetic diversity. So their DNA was, because I'm not a scientist, folks. I'm just trying to study what is going on with information. So when we look at these cheetahs and how they were affected at the DNA level, they had no immunity to a particular disease that was wiping them out. Now, that was due to the same genetic information. So I want to talk to you now, not about genetic information, okay, but a different type of bottleneck. It is an information bottleneck. An information bottleneck in financial education typically means that most consumers receive a very standardized and limited set of information about how loans and amortization actually works. particularly with respect to the long-term costs of interest and the mechanics of amortization schedules. Now, I need you all to think about this. Have you had any education about the mechanics? I mean, how amortization actually works. We all have the same education. I don't care how, listen, I've been doing this 19 years, and I don't care who I talk to in finance, accountants, CPAs, real estate agents, real estate brokers, bankers, people who sell mortgages. We all have the same education, except for those people who own the banks. They have a different education when it comes to the mechanics of amortization. Now, amortization schedules, that's the schedule that determines how you pay back a loan over time and how much interest the bank wants from you to borrow that money. This restricted flow of information often comes from traditional education systems, lending institutions, and financial advisors that may not have the incentive or even the capacity to teach innovative or strategic financial management. So, in other words, folks, all the education that's out there right now, taught by financial gurus, taught by experts, even taught in universities, is not adequate to help us to solve the problem of debt. In fact, what we're taught actually exacerbates the debt and our are being mired in debt. We are treating the symptoms and not the disease. So the impact on consumers. Okay, here's what's next. Limited knowledge of options. Consumers may not be aware of alternative repayment strategies that could save them significant amounts of money. Now, we have some strategies, but they don't save us significant amounts of money. They don't save us what could be saved because our education that we have is lacking. And they often accept standard loan terms and amortization schedules as the only option, not realizing that these structures are designed to maximize interest payments to lenders. We are actually involved in a system, even our educational system is involved in paying maximum amount of interest to lenders. We can cut that interest cost by 75%. We just don't know that we can. You know, if we approach this like eighth graders, I had an opportunity to talk to some eighth graders not too long ago and introduce them to the concept of interest. They had no idea that their parents were paying this kind of interest in this way. When I explained it to them, they could not conceive of paying out that kind of money, their money, the money that they could have. Now I put together we did some role playing with the kids and giving them some money so that they could buy some Nikes. Okay. And when I told them of the money that they have, how little of the money that they have when they're trying to pay for these shoes on time, how little of that money was actually paying down the shoes and how much was coming to me as the bank, they said, oh no, we don't want anything to do with that. Kids get it. For some reason, after a while, we get so used to this information. we have what called an information bottleneck. Okay. We all look at debt the exact same way, not realizing that these structures are designed to maximize interest payments to lenders. Number two, reduce financial flexibility. With a narrow understanding, consumers are less equipped to make decisions that could enhance their financial flexibility. Now, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And therefore, when it comes to dealing with debt, all you see, everything that you see, you believe that's all there is, because nobody else is introducing any new information. All you see is all there is. So even when there's an introduction of new information, for instance, how much pushback did we get when when people were dying by the thousands of COVID? How much pushback was there over the vaccine that will actually kill the virus? It's, you've got the disease, here's the cure, but the cure is suspect because it was unlike anything we have had before. See, we want to treat symptoms. We're taught to treat symptoms. I had a chiropractor once, and the chiropractor told me, he says, Don, your headache is not the result of an aspirin deficiency. So why are you taking aspirin to get rid of your headache? You're treating the symptoms. You're not treating the problem. You're not trying to get to a cure. You're just trying to make your head feel better. But what is causing the problem is still around. All right? And it could be damaging you, but you don't realize it because by taking the aspirin or the Tylenol, you feel better. So when there is when we could have some financial flexibility, we get new information, but the truth is so far from our reality, it's hard for us to wrap our minds around it. Okay? So listen to this, folks. And if you want to see this, go to YouTube so that you can read along with me as we go over what is actually happening to us. They are often locked into long-term debt repayment structures that are not aligned with their financial capacity or goals. Listen, folks, I don't know of anyone who wants to pay a mortgage for 30 years. They believe they have to pay a mortgage for 30 years. But when they are told you don't have to pay a mortgage for 30 years, that you can actually pay it off in 7 to 9 years, the reaction is, how can that be? We have never been told that before. No one else on the internet is talking about it. We can't believe that we can use our current budget using the current form of how loans are constructed. We can use that same format to pay a loan off in 7 years instead of in 30 years or never. In fact, 9 out of 10 people, because of how we have been conditioned, because how we've been taught, 9 out of 10 people will never pay off a mortgage. Ever. I need you to count it up yourself. Right now, do a little math, do a little mental exercise of all the people family, friends and acquaintances that had mortgages, how many do you know that have actually paid one off? Some of your grandparents. Most of you have, if your grandparents are alive, they still have a mortgage. And some of you may be parents and even grandparents, and you still have a mortgage, and not with just a few years left. I mean, it's close to 30 years left. And you wonder, how in the world did we get here? Because, ladies and gentlemen, of an information bottleneck. We have very little diversity that would protect us from this disease, and the debt is not the disease. The disease is the interest that keeps us sick for 30 years and forever. Now, how do we understand this from this point of view? Okay, so now let me see here. Where was I? They are often locked into long-term debt repayment structures that are not aligned with their financial capacity or goals. Listen, we don't want to be here. We want to be someplace else. Vulnerability to financial strains. Now, here's what happens when you have a lack of diversity when it comes to financial information. To be properly educated on how these systems actually work. Without the knowledge of how to manage or negotiate the terms of their debt, consumers may become more vulnerable to financial crises. A minor disruption in their financial situation can lead to a disproportionate difficulties due to inefficient debt management. Ladies and gentlemen, for the people that you know that contracted COVID, even yourself, if you contracted COVID, was it your fault that you had no immunity to this disease? How could anybody tell you that this pandemic and you contracted the disease, or you know somebody who contracted the disease? How can anybody tell you it's your fault? But we will turn around and accuse people or accept the idea that our poor debt management is our fault, when in fact we are following the information that experts are giving us. The very things that we are taught to do, and I'm going to make some notes here. The very things that we're taught to do, we shouldn't do. Like put a large down payment on loans. Don't do that. That hurts you. Never put a large down payment on a loan, ever. Don't ever do it. Okay? We have been taught that when interest rates drop by 2 points or more, that we should refinance to get the lower interest rate. I need you to know that getting the lower interest rate, this is what we're taught now, getting the lower interest rate will actually not do what we want it to do. We think by refinancing, when the interest rates are lower, that will do something to get us out of debt faster and cheaper, when it is actually designed to keep us in debt longer and cost us more. But we don't realize it. You see, every 5 to 7 years, Americans refinance their mortgages. You see, so in essence, Americans don't have 30-year loans. they have 5 to 7 year mortgages until they die. That's it. That's how we've been oriented. That's when we have limited information, ladies and gentlemen, we start to treat the symptoms and not the disease. And the symptoms are we need to look at the interest rate and try to fix the interest rate. That's a symptom. We need to lower the payment. That will help us. No, that's a symptom. That's not the disease. The disease is interest. What are we being told to cut out the interest cost? What are we being taught to manage interest cost? Nothing. We are taught to manage interest rate, symptom. We're taught to manage the term, how long that the debt is structured for. That's a symptom as well. When we understand the mechanics, okay, now we have to get, some smart people in some laboratories, okay? Oh my goodness. And we have to get what was her name? A black woman. Somebody help me remember her name, somebody who helped develop the vaccine for COVID-19. Now, they had to understand the structure, the mechanical structure, how the disease was built so that they can come up with a vaccine that will kill the virus. But you can't come up with a vaccine to kill the virus if you don't know the virus's structure. How can we come up with a situation where we can kill the disease, that means interest, if we have not been taught how amortization actually works, the structure on which the whole thing is built? We have never been taught. So how can we come up with the right solutions? So the solution is how to eliminate interest. But we have been given treatment for symptoms. So now, what else do we have? Okay. So when something happens, all right, when you lose a job, when incomes go down, when there is a recession, there is a ripple effect throughout the entire country and even the world when it comes to managing our finances, because we have no protection on keeping us out of trouble based on math, based on how we really need to understand what's going on. So the more the deeper, the more intense the disruption, the more we start to practice those things that harm us. We start to do more of what got us there in the first place, because that's all we know. 4, barriers to optimizing interest cancellation. The core issue here is that the standard education does not typically include teachings on how to strategically reduce interest payments. Listen, folks, when you really stop to think about it, it is the interest that keeps you in debt forever, not how much debt you have and not how long it is structured to be around. You see, when they structure a 30-year amortization, it really doesn't mean you need to stay in the loan for 30 years. It doesn't mean that at all. What it means is these are the numbers we are using to structure a payment you can afford. But at the same time, we're structuring a payment you can afford. The amount of interest that you pay is actually unaffordable. How can two things be true at the same time? How is that? Well, when you're making your mortgage payment and 88% of your payment goes to interest and only 12% of your payment pays down the loan, even though the entire payment is something you can afford, I can afford the payment. But do you really want to afford the fact that 88% of your money is going towards interest and only 12% of your money is actually paying down the loan? And nobody ever points this out to you. And this is what we've been taught to do. And so when hard time comes, when they come, we have so little equity in our property, we have no options. But what we could do, we could have plenty of equity. Even in the first 2 to 5 years, we could have way more equity than we do now with the current budget that we have, because all we need to do is pay less interest. We don't need more money. We need less interest. We don't need a lower interest rate. We need to have less interest cost and stop looking at taking pills or taking Tylenol or taking aspirin to cure a headache. When it comes to our finances, how are loans constructed? Who benefits from how loans are constructed? And when we really find out what's going on, we can do certain things to disrupt the bank's entire system so that we can make it impossible for them to charge us all the interest they want to charge. Do you want to know, everybody who's watching me today, do you want to know how to make it impossible for the bank to charge you all of this interest? I'm just asking. Put it in the chat. Put it in the comment section. Tell me where you're from. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's continue on here. So the core issue here is that the standard education doesn't do what we need it to do. Techniques such as making extra principal payments at strategic times or restructuring debt are not common knowledge. Okay? Let me see if somebody just put a point here. LaShawn, okay, says, my Lord, I wish I had this vital information years ago, but I know now. Thank you, Ice, for sharing. Okay? Chicago in the house. Hey, Chicago. All right. I appreciate you for saying that. So, listen, folks, where is this leading? Where is this leading that we have so little immunity when it comes to getting sick from interest payments? Can we become immune to interest payments? Can we live in a society where we can borrow money and make it cheap to borrow money instead of borrowing money and keeping us in chains forever? Let's take a look at this. Okay? These things are not common knowledge, but I'm telling you, when the truth starts to emerge. And this is why I need your help today. I need all of you to start directing people to this YouTube channel. And watching and listening to the truth about how loans actually work. Now, Don, if it's not taught anywhere, how did you get it? And I've said it before, I have what's called ASD, autism spectrum disorder. So when I look at an amortization schedule, I actually see the pictures and the patterns. I begin to look into this thing and see the mechanics. And what I found is that there is a tremendous weakness in the system that the banking system has given us since 1936. For 89 years. That's when the bottleneck of information started, was in 1936. What do I mean? In 1936, we had the first amortized loan. It was the first mortgage. It was a 20-year mortgage. And the bottleneck of information that I'm talking about is not the 20-year mortgage, because we were told that it was designed to eventually get us out of debt in 20 years. You see, because prior to 1936, loans look more like this. You had to have 50 to 80% down to get a mortgage. And your payments were made small because they were interest-only payments. That's the payment you could afford, was the interest-only payment. That's how mortgages were constructed before 1936. We didn't have amortized loans like we have today. So when we got these loans to try to dig us out of the Great Depression, you see, after the stock market crash in 1929, the government swooped in, bought up a bunch of these mortgages, and reissued them as 20-year mortgages, because the people were stuck. They were stuck in paying interest only, and the terms of these loans were 3 to 5 or 10 years. So depending on when your term was up, you had two choices. You could pay off the balloon payment, or you could refinance and go back to paying interest only. And people got used to that. They got used to refinancing and paying interest only because they didn't have the big money to pay off the balloon payment. They didn't have it. They took all of their money to pay the down payment, and now they're struggling again. So the government comes along and says, listen, we got to get rid of this system because it just keeps people in debt forever. Let's give them a 20-year amortized mortgage. They called it the first self-amortizing mortgage, where every time you make a payment, some money went to principal, paying down the loan, and some went to interest. Now, the government did not want to be in the mortgage business, so they sold these mortgages to investors so the government could get their money back. And what made these investors so interested in these mortgages was they could get interest for the next 20 years on these loans. And when they saw how much, when you made a payment, how much that payment was discounted, how little of your money was going to pay down the loan, and how much they could keep out of your payment, and so that you had to keep on paying for 20 years to pay off whatever your mortgage was. Oh man, the investors were all in. And because they were all in, here comes the information bottleneck. How are the loans constructed? What are the mechanics of amortization and how does it actually work? This information is not taught. And because it's not taught, the system exists today, 89 years later. 89 years we've been doing this thing with little to no information about how it all works. And that's why it doesn't create alarm bells when a $200,000 car has to be paid off in 7 years, but it can take 30 years to pay off a $200,000 house. You can't get a 30-year mortgage for a $200,000 car. You just can't do it. It doesn't exist. But they will give you a 30-year mortgage for a $200,000 house. Now, because of the lack of education and using the word ignorance in not a derogatory in a derogatory way, but in a practical way, financial ignorance makes people money at the top of the food chain. And it's because of this financial ignorance, we think by treating the symptoms, because we can get a good job, we can pay our bills, we can use our credit cards and pay them off every month. We can travel where we want. We can live the way we want. We can drive what we want. We can live where we want. And we have a very good life without knowing, without realizing what our interest consumption actually is. Here's our interest consumption. I need you to do a little math on your own. The average family has 13 different debts. And they live well. They're paying their bills. They're not behind. They're not even struggling. The average family has 13 different debts. And because of that, 35 to 39% of their income pays interest alone. 35 to 39%. I've seen it as high as 50% of their income pays interest alone. Now, I'm not talking about adding up the total payments, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about look at each payment that you have, figure out how much interest you made on that payment, and just add up the interest payments. Will you do that? Will you pull out your mortgage papers right now? I mean, you can listen to me. You could listen, pull out your mortgage papers now or after the broadcast and look at your amortization schedule and see how much interest you are actually paying each and every month when you give the bank your money. I dare you to do it. I dare you to now add that interest payment to the car interest payment, just the interest portion. Add that to the credit cards. Add that to student loans. Add that to whatever loans you have. When you add up all the interest you're paying, do the math and figure out how much money that is and what percentage. What's that percentage of your income does that calculate to be? 35 to 39%. That's what I call interest consumption in my book. And we're conditioned to do it. Now, you can become so used to conditioning. And here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. You can become so used to conditioning that even when the cure comes, you can fight against what can actually help you because you're so used to doing it a certain way. So the big barrier to optimize interest cancellation is it goes against everything we've ever been taught. Here are a couple of more instances. We talked about large down payments. Okay. We talked about what you could do when interest rates go down. You could refinance. Yeah, don't do that. It doesn't help. Okay. We talked about, listen, did you know that the lower the interest rate, I need you to take some notes now, the lower the interest rate, the harder it is to pay off the loan, and you actually end up paying more interest? If you want to pay off the loan cheaper and faster, once you learn how the mechanics of how an amortization schedule actually works, and we're going to get to that today. What are the mechanics? How does an amortization schedule actually work? But once you understand the mechanics, you will find out that the lower the interest rate, the worse off you are. And the higher interest rates actually can help you to get out of debt cheaper and faster. Once you understand the mechanics, you see, those who are the lenders and those who are the buyers of your mortgage paper, meaning the investors that invest in mortgages, they don't want you to know how powerful prepayment can be, because their incomes depend on our ignorance. Yeah. You know, it's very simple to eliminate interest. Did you know that? It's simple to eliminate interest. But what's hard is to eliminate the maximum amount of interest per dollar. This whole thing can be systematized so that you can optimize interest savings. I mean, you can do the right thing at the right time with the right loan, with the right amount of money. I mean, to the penny, where you can actually save the maximum amount of interest that's mathematically possible for you. Not just save some interest, but I mean drive the cost of borrowing down into the dirt, where you're actually borrowing money at your current interest rate. But by the time you're done, at the amount of interest you'll actually pay, your effective interest rate is 1% or less. What? Now, I know some people are out there right now saying, how can that be? Nobody else is talking about using my current budget, my current loan, my current bank. I'm not changing anything. I'm just learning how the thing is structured so I can beat the bank at their own game, because we now know the rules. Yes, you can know the rules. Okay. So now here's the P.I.L.L method solution. I need you to, let's go over this. The P.I.L.L method addresses this bottleneck, the bottleneck of information. When you have a bottleneck of information, when you have a bottleneck of information diversity throughout society and throughout the world, when you get this disease of interest, it will cause a massive disruption in your ability to grow wealth, because of a bottleneck of information, and it causes the lack of immunity to the disease of interest. Okay, so what we're talking about today is we use a cloud-based AI computing system that helps consumers precisely calculate the most efficient ways to cancel interest, thus offering a way to break free from the conventional debt cycle. Now, if you want to, you can get a free savings report to know how much interest can be canceled, how easy it is to cancel it, and you can actually find out what your effective interest rate can be, and it's for free. Go to ice10k.com. ICE. Let me put this a banner on the screen. ice10k.com. Okay, and you can get a free savings report. Just fill out the information. The podcast can explore how by expanding the spectrum of information available to consumers. We're going to get some information today that's going to expand and broaden our horizon. When you expand this information, it is like getting a shot so that you can now become immune to the disease of interest. Okay? Because now you know there's some diversity of information that you have. We're going to get rid of the old information and put in the new information. All right? The P.I.L.L method empowers them to take control over their financial destinies, much like introducing genetic diversity into a monoculture to combat disease. This approach not only educates, but also equips consumers with the practical tools to apply their knowledge, thereby optimizing their financial health and ensuring they are less susceptible to the disease of debt. Okay, somebody just put something in here. What does it say here? Can you add the link to the chat? Yes, I can. All right, let me add the link to the chat. Okay. ice10k.com. Okay. ICE, the number 10, the letter K.com. And it's on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. You could see it at the bottom. Get a free savings report today. Most of our clients are out of debt in about 7 to 9 years. Okay? So don't continue doing what you've always done. All right? Now I have to find out where I was. Okay, so now when we're fighting this monoculture of information, when we get some diversity of information, we can now become immune to what's happening. This approach not only educates, but also equips consumers with the practical tools to apply their knowledge. Okay? We can become less susceptible to the disease of debt. Okay? This theme resonates with the broader narrative of encouraging financial literacy. This is the new financial literacy, ladies and gentlemen, only found here at the P.I.L.L method. That's why I need your help in spreading the word. I can't do it by myself. I need your help to get the information out there. Now, some of you may want to even become affiliates. You can go to ice10k.com and become an affiliate. And you don't have to spread this information for free. We'll actually pay you to help people to take advantage of this information. Okay? So this theme resonates with the broader narrative of encouraging financial literacy and innovation to counteract the restrictive and often detrimental impacts of one size fits all approach to financial education and loan management. When we have so little information about this lending thing, this amortization schedule, the fact that we don't have the rules to the game, but we become carriers of the disease, meaning you can become infected with the disease and infect others, and it won't kill you. You can live with it for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, and then die. This disease is not designed to kill you. This disease is designed to suck the financial life out of you. I'm here today to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way. This disease can be eradicated with the right information. Now, any of you want to come and ask some questions, raise your hand. We can bring you up. You can ask some questions. So, what are the consequences? Okay. The consequence, a financial immune system failure. Oh my goodness. Listen to this now. Because of this bottleneck, consumers operate with low or no financial immunity. We have none. We don't have a financial immunity when it comes to the disease of interest. Okay. Debt is not the disease. Debt is not the problem. Debt is a symptom of the disease interest. So we are taught to feel bad about the debt. We're taught to manage the debt. We're taught to how to pay off the debt. We're not taught how to manage the interest cost. They have been equipped with the knowledge or tools. They have not been equipped with the knowledge or tools to recognize or defend against the structural design of amortization. We don't have that. In biological terms, a monoculture with the same immune system is highly susceptible to a single disease. What is the disease, ladies and gentlemen? Put it in the chat. What is the disease? It's interest. When we all have the same information, when we all have the same idea of what's going on, we become susceptible to this disease that is designed for us to live with it our entire lives and suck the financial life out of us. So it makes it so hard to build generational wealth because we're giving our wealth away. The same applies here with everyone thinking the same way about debt. The infection spreads unchecked from family member to family member, from generation to generation. Since 1936, for 89 years, the same information has been handed down to us forever so that investors can make more money. But it doesn't have to be that way. What we're witnessing is a systemic outbreak of interest overpayment. One more time. Oh my gosh. What we're witnessing is a systemic outbreak of interest overpayment. People have been taught to treat the symptoms, monthly payments, minimum dues, refinance offers, rather than the actual disease, amortization, and interest itself. And this financial epidemic has been silently draining wealth from us for 89 years. Folks, do you want this to stop? Put a number 9 in the chat if you want to make this thing stop. Get it out of my life, get it out of my family, get it out of my information psyche. I don't want to pay interest like this anymore. Put a number 9 in the chat if you want this gone. Do you want the cure today? Or do you want to keep doing what you've always done? Put a number 9 in the chat, in the comment section, if you want it gone. Okay? Here's the cure. The P.I.L.L method provides education and tools. Watch these videos on YouTube. You don't have to watch the long videos if you don't want to. You can watch the short videos on YouTube. You can go to YouTube, all right? And so let me open this up, okay? You can go to YouTube. Let me put this on here, okay? You can go to YouTube and click on where it says videos right here, okay? You can click on videos, and we have taken a lot of our shows and just cut it up. Let me see here. This one was just put up 1 hour ago. All right. Why timing your loan payments matters. Okay. So this one is 6 minutes and 15 seconds long. This one is just a little over 6 minutes. This one's just about 9 minutes, 10 minutes. So they're very rarely over 10 minutes long. So people ask a question and we give an answer, and there are hundreds of these short videos so that you can start building up your immune system, your financial immune system, with better information to broaden your financial knowledge so that you can become immune to interest. So you can kill it, so you can manage it, and you can make it work for you. I'm not saying that you should not borrow money. I'm saying you should learn how to leverage this thing and make it work for you so you can actually use it. You can use your debt, your mortgage, every debt that you have, you can make it work for you so you can build wealth. What? Yeah, you can use debt to build wealth once you know the mechanics of how amortization actually works. You can make it work for you. So watch these videos, ladies and gentlemen. Get a savings report. Get education that you can find nowhere else but here. Now, are there systems out there on the internet or even on YouTube that can help you to get out of debt faster? Yes. But there are none out there that can help you to get out of debt cheaper than this. I don't listen. There are a lot of ways I want to enter in. Listen, I want to enter this thing whole. You see, when you have insufficient information, you can pay off your debt faster. But why do you have to pay $50,000 to $75,000 more in interest to do it? You see, I want to be cured of a disease. You see, I can actually get rid of a disease part of my body by taking the antibiotics to cure the whole body. Or I can cure it by cutting off my leg if the leg is infected. Now, is the disease gone? Yeah, the disease gone. But is my leg gone? Yes, my leg is gone. Why are we taking that approach to handling our debt? Why do we not want to get rid of the cause of long-term debt, which is the interest, and live a great and full life, managing our money the way it was intended to be managed, and build generational wealth? You see, we want to do some of the things that banks are doing today. What? Yeah. Everything is around not having the debt. Not having the debt it ain't the problem. The debt is not the problem. It's the interest. If borrowing money was the problem, every bank in your city would be out of business. Every single one. Okay? Every single one. You see, they've learned how to borrow money and they've learned how to make money with that money. And they've also learned how to pay us pennies on the dollar for the use of our own money. Folks, why can't we do the same thing? Let's stop telling people that the problem is borrowing money when the problem is how to borrow the money more efficiently, how to use leverage to our advantage. Banks have learned that. They don't want us to learn that. So you'll never hear me say borrowing money is a problem. I want to be an educated borrower, don't you? I saw some number nines in the chat. Listen, I'm going to get there. But what we don't want to do is keep on. We've been doing this thing for 89 years. It's time for it to stop. Let's stop this system from draining our wealth. Here's the cure. The P.I.L.L method provides the education and the tools, meaning we provide AI that can do all of the math and give you great instruction. It tells you what to do and when, and exact financial calculations necessary to overcome this long-standing deficiency. You see, we don't just give you technology, we give you the education to provide a long-term shift in your thinking. You see, just because people become clients of ours, don't think that the old way of thinking goes away immediately. It does not. You're going to have to struggle and fight against the old way of thinking, even when you become a client of the P.I.L.L method. That's why we provide coaching. You will have a coach that will help you to understand what's going on as you're learning how to eliminate debt through interest cancellation. That's going to be your new term. Interest cancellation cancels the debt. Interest cancellation saves us money. And the money we didn't spend on interest, we can now invest. So, do you want to take action? By combining powerful cloud-based AI computing with real financial education and strategic coaching, we empower consumers to see their loans for what they really are. And they can take action, do something about it. The only thing that keeps you in this same place is a thing called cognitive dissonance. I'm so used to doing what I've always done. I'm actually afraid to do the new thing that's going to cure me. Let that sink in for a minute. I'm so used to doing what I've always done. I'm actually afraid to do the new thing that's going to cure me and my family. I have had to live this thing. My father left me nothing. His father left him nothing. His father left him nothing. Listen, how many generations do we have to go back and keep saying that our families are not leaving wealth to the next generation? Because it just costs so doggone much just to live. And we get used to it. And because it's designed for us to live with it and not kill us, we forget it's actually there. Our approach, let's finish this part up. Our approach introduces financial diversity. You need diversity. We need individuals who we can construct a program around and treat them as individuals so that when we come together financially, there's enough financial diversity to become better as a society and not weaker through incestual relationships, adding the same information upon the same information, making us weaker and weaker as a financial society. Do you want to grow as a society to become better? Then you need some financial diversity. So when you come together, we can grow stronger, building up immunity to the very issues that are trying to suck the life out of us. Our approach introduces financial diversity into this toxic monoculture of debt, restoring immunity, challenging outdated thinking, and guiding individuals toward optimal interest cancellation. It's not just a better way to manage debt. It's a movement to eradicate financial ignorance and to restore control to the borrower. Folks, if that's what you want, let me show you now some things that we need to understand. I need you, if you're not looking at YouTube, I'm going to show you some of the things that this monoculture has been teaching us to keep us locked in to a system where we are paying this kind of money. And we're going to break it down as far as the math is concerned today. All right. I need you to see this. So click the link at the top. Click the link at the top so that you can see what's going on. So let's get Mr. Brett Whistle out, and you can use some of this information yourself. I'm using, this is not my program. This is for teaching. This is a teaching tool to help you to understand amortization. So it's brettwhistle.net. Okay. And somebody can put that in the chat for me. B-R-E-T is his first name, Brett Whistle, W-H-I, S as in Sam, S as in Sam, E-L, brettwhistle.net, BRETWISSEL.net. Put that in the chat for me, somebody. All right. And you can listen, you can do this yourself. You can do some of these things yourself by watching, listen, we've been here an hour and 13 minutes. We've been here a whole hour and 13 minutes and haven't had one commercial. Hold on, folks. Let me play a commercial here. And then we'll get into what's going on. And I'm going to teach you some information about how to counteract interest and why we need to do that once we get back from this short break, which will also allow me to get a drink of water. Here's something from Eric Thomas, all right? The E.T., the hip hop preacher. Here's what he has to say.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
All right, folks, we are back. We are back. I have now a $400,000 mortgage on the screen at 7%. And everybody's saying, listen, I need you all to start learning this right away. Interest rate is not the problem. Interest cost is the problem, and that needs to be managed. So if you can afford this payment, then you can get this mortgage and you can control how much interest you pay. So stop. The first thing we need to do is stop trying to get the lowest interest rates available. They are hurting you. If you can get this interest rate and you can afford the payment, get the interest rate. Get this one. Get the one that they're offering. Because here's what you need to know. We're going to teach you why a higher interest rates can actually save you money once you understand the mechanics. Let's get into the mechanics of this thing, okay? And here are some of the mechanics. First of all, how does amortization work? On a $400,000 mortgage at 7%, here is what the bank is looking for. They're looking for, okay, why they're looking for total interest paid, $558,000. $558,000 on a $400,000 loan. You need to start looking at this as your bank wants you to pay for your house, not $400,000, but $958,000. Are there any takers out there? Does anybody want to pay $958,000 for your $400,000 house? I need your answer in the chat right now. Do you want to pay nearly $1 million for your $400,000 house? Put it in the chat right now. Do you? That's a yes or a no. Okay, Tracy, watch out now. But that's what they're asking us to do. Why? Because we have a monoculture when it comes to the information that we have. We don't know the mechanics. I'm going to teach you some of the mechanics right now. Okay? I'm going to teach you some of the mechanics right now. You're going to need to get your calculators out so that you can learn what has not been taught to you for 89 years. We have to break out of this monoculture. Okay? So get your calculator out right now. And how do they get us to do this? All right? I'm going to put my calculator on the screen. There we are. We're going to learn how to do this. Here's what they do. They take the interest rate you're given, okay, which is 7%. So we're going to put it into our calculator as a decimal, 0.07. Or you can put in 7 and hit the percent key. Doesn't really matter which way you do it, but 0.07. And then they take the interest rate and divide it by 12. Okay? So whatever your interest rate is, they divide it by 12. And this is the number they use every single month. Whatever your interest rate is, divided by 12, and this is what they use. Here's how it works. I'm teaching the mechanics right now. This is what we don't have. This is because you don't know the mechanics, you can't come up with a solution. So let's break it down how the thing works. So now they take this number and multiply it by the $400,000. Multiply it by 400,000. And you can do this. And it equals $2,333.33. I need you to take a look at the very first interest payment. There it is. $2,333.33. This is what they're doing. And what's left out of your payment of $2,661? $2,661, your payment is then discounted by $23,33.33, and that leaves $327.88 to put on your mortgage to pay it down, to pay down the principal. So the idea of interest for a lot of us means that when I make my payment, some money goes to principal and some money goes to interest over here. Okay. All right. So interest over here, payment over here, principal over here, and interest over there. No. When you make your mortgage payment, okay, and you subtract out the taxes and the insurance, the principal and interest payment goes to the investor that bought your mortgage. You see, when you get a mortgage, ladies and gentlemen, it's usually sold within the first 2 weeks of you closing, and you've witnessed that. And some of your mortgages have been sold multiple times. Okay? So it's sold, and when it's sold, okay, then the investor gets the principal and interest payment, 2661.21. That's what the investor receives. They receive the whole 2621. But because of amortization, they get to discount that payment by $2,300. Now, let me show you some of the numbers. We're still looking at the mechanics now. Let me show you some of the numbers as to why the mortgage people or the investor loves this thing so much. Let's put the calculator back on the screen. Okay? So now we're going to teach you a little bit more math. The first interest payment, $2,333.33. Now you take that number and you multiply it by the entire payment. Okay? You put in the first interest payment first, and then you multiply it by, you divide it by the entire mortgage payment. Now, the principal and interest is mortgage payment. Taxes and insurance are not mortgage payments. So get that out of your head right now. That's escrow money. Your mortgage payment is the principal and interest. So take the principal and interest, the 2661.21, okay, and divide it into the first interest payment. Here you go. We're going to divide it by 2661.21 equals 0.876. And because this third number is 5 or more, we round up the second number to the next number, or 88. So 88% of your payment is discounted, and it leaves only 12% to pay down the loan. Let me put this to you another way. Every dollar of this 2661, every single dollar you have paid towards giving this investor on your mortgage, every single dollar, 88 cents of that dollar doesn't count for you. Out of every dollar, 88 cents. Only 12 cents out of every dollar counts for you. 88 cents counts for the investor who bought your mortgage. Do you see why? Because the whole mortgage industry is built on this. The whole mortgage industry is built on this fact. Your bank, your credit union, does not make a dime off of mortgage interest. They make their money when they sell the mortgage to an investor. That's how they make their money. Investors buy it. And the one thing that they're afraid of, the number one thing that they're afraid of is prepayment. Write it down. The number one thing the investors are afraid of is prepayment. It's not default that you will not pay the loan and they will get their money back. They're not afraid of that. Most people will continue to do this. Curious, does this also apply to car loans? Okay, yeah, this whole system applies to car loans. Well, we're going to learn how it works. And the amortization works in every single type of loan. Every single type of loan. Every one works this way. So 88% of your payment, if this is your mortgage, 88% of it goes to interest. So what happens is only $327.88 or 12 cents out of every dollar goes to pay down the mortgage. So they subtract the $327.88 from what you owe, the $400,000. You're left with $399,672.12. So if what I'm saying is correct, we could do the same process, understanding the mechanics. We can use the same process on what's left, our new principal balance, which is $399,672.12. So let's do it again. Let's bring back our calculator. Let's clear it out. Let's put in our 0.07. Let's divide it by 12 again. Let's get our 0.0058333, and let's multiply it by our new principal balance. And by the way, folks, it's not just the principal balance. This is your brand new mortgage. Yeah. Your first mortgage was $400,000. Your second one is $399,672.12. The way that they're constructing this is not one mortgage at all. You're paying 1/12 of the interest rate on the unpaid balance 360 times. It's not one mortgage, it's 360 separate mortgages. That's what they want you to pay. That's how this thing works. This is why investors love mortgage-backed securities, and our financial ignorance, our financial bottleneck, our financial, the lack of financial diversity causes a disease that causes us to pay this kind of money and get used to it and start living with it instead of trying to eradicate it. So now we're going to take this number and multiply. Some of you have done it already. Okay. Take this number and multiply it by the new mortgage of $399,672.12 equals $2,331.42. What? That's exactly what we have here on line 2. You now know some of the mechanics. Just this much. You now know more about how mortgages work than probably your accountant, your CPA that does your taxes, your real estate agent that helped you to find your house, and the mortgage professional that provided you with your mortgage, because none of these people are required to know how this works to get their license. None of them. Don't go and call your bank and ask them if this is true, because the person answering the phone has no idea how mortgages work. Because if they did, the information would start getting out, and some of that financial diversity would start leaking into society, and more people will become savvy to what's actually happening, and the investors will eventually stop buying these mortgages from the bank, and they'll have to adopt a whole new system because the consumer is now immunized against the disease of debt. Oh, Lord, have mercy. All right, somebody's asking a question here. Silverline says, do you request this principal and interest sheet from the bank? No, no, no. You can make this up yourself. Silverline, you came in late. This is, look at the chat. This is from brettwhistle.net. You can make this yourself. Don't try to get it from the bank. Okay. What I'm asking you all to do now is stop trying to get financial information from your bank, because they are super spreaders of disease. Your bank is a super spreader of the disease. Don't go to your bank to try to get the cure. Not only will you not receive it, they are fresh out of the cure. They have no idea what the cure is. The people who own the bank know, but none of the people, and I mean none of the people that work in the bank have this cure. None of them. Stop asking them. Okay, Tracy says we've been hoodwinked and bamboozled. Listen, I'm telling you folks, this is how it works. So here's what you need to know. Okay, just with this little bit of information. Number one, I'm teaching you now how easy it is to disrupt the loan. I am not teaching you what I do. It seems simple when I explain it, but to optimize interest savings, you need a computer to do it. You cannot do this on your own. It cannot be done. Paying off a loan, or paying off all of your loans, is so complicated. It's designed for us to make mistakes. And no matter what we do to pay off a loan, we've been given things like the avalanche method or the debt snowball. Yeah, those things will get you out of debt faster than doing nothing, but you will end up paying way more interest than you need to pay. So the banks don't care if you have that information. They don't care. No, the investors don't care if you have that information, because you're not saving the optimal amount of interest. You're not cutting your interest by 75%. If you have a computer program that is designed to tell you exactly how much to pay and when to pay it and on which loan to attack, you can cut your interest costs down by about 75 to 80% with your current budget. You don't need more money to manage your debt. You need to learn how to pay less interest. How do we attack the disease? So whatever line you find yourself on this amortization schedule, look to the very next line to figure out how much interest you're going to pay. And this now becomes part of the key. Whatever line you're on your amortization schedule, look to the very next line to see what to do, how much interest you're going to pay. You can control that part. Let me show you. Okay? This little trick here, this one little trick, investors don't want you to know, because this one little thing you can do, you can build on it to massively upset what they've been doing for the last 89 years. When you make this first mortgage payment, let's call it January. I made my first payment in January. Okay. I can now see my February principal payment, or on line 2. Okay. My February principal payment is $329.79. Now, I'm just using this number as an example. Please do not look at this as what we're supposed to do. I need you to see how simple it is to disrupt what they're doing. Okay? This is why they don't want you to know how much interest you're saving when you prepay. Prepayment is what the investors are afraid of. I'm getting ready to show you why, but let me ask you this question first. Many of you have prepaid your loan, meaning I have paid more than just the minimum payment. I put extra on my mortgage. I put extra on my car loan. I put extra on my student loan, more than what they were asking for. I put extra on my credit cards. Have you ever received a receipt back from any financial institution that said your extra payment has been received? Here's how much interest you saved. Put it in the chat. Here is how much interest you saved by making this prepayment. Put it in the chat. Have you ever received that from a banking institution? There's a reason why. There's a reason why. And I'm getting ready to show you why they don't show you this. Because if you knew this, the investors would not like it. And we have had this disease for 89 years. And we have been taught to treat the symptoms so we can live with the disease. Lord have mercy. Okay. So I made my first payment in January. And I take a look at February's principal payment. Do I have to wait till February to give the bank this money, the $329.79? Do I have to wait till February? The answer is no. I don't have to. I can pay it ahead of time. I can pay this in January as well. If I did, do you know they have to subtract that from my new principal balance of $399,672.12? And when I subtract this as well, I'm paid down to line 2 on my amortization schedule. I'm paid down to here in February. If I'm paid down to here in February, what did I say before? If I'm paid down to here, my next thing I need to do is look to the next line to see how much interest I'll pay. And the next line means this. I'm on line 3, and this is my new mortgage payment. The payment for March actually moves up one. What did I just do here? Payment number 1, which I made, and payment number 3 are now touching. Payment number 2 has been eliminated. What? Payment number 2 has been eliminated. Now, why is that important? When I prepay this, I don't have to pay this $2,331.42 in interest on line 2 as part of my mortgage, as part of my interest payments to the investor. You see, every single month, you are gaining equity. Every single month, you're gaining equity, potential equity in your mortgage. But out of the $2,661 that you're paying, $2,600, you're paying your mortgage down like this. This is how much equity you're getting. 331, 333, 335. But look what it costs you to get it. 2,333, 2,331, 2,329, 2,327. Each month you pay on time, this is what happens to you. They get to discount you by 88%. Each time you make a payment on time, they get to discount you. This is why you get such a high score, a high credit score, because you pay on time. You're encouraged to continue this cycle paying on time to get your high credit score. You're 800, you're 825, you're 850, and you're so proud of that. You see, folks, I'd give you, if I was the banking institution, I'd give you a credit score too to encourage you to keep up this behavior, because it's this behavior that drains our finances and makes other people rich. Okay? So here's what's happening. So somebody's asking a question, but what happens to the next payment after line 2? Okay, so here's what happens. When you make this payment on line 1 and you prepay this $329.79, this is your new February payment. Line 3 is your new February payment. Line 3 moves up. Okay? So you have to make a payment every single month of at least the minimum payment. That doesn't change. When you have this mortgage, you have to make a payment every single month. But now your investor wants you to make all 360 payments. But by doing this, making this payment on line one and prepaying this, cutting out this interest payment, you have just turned this into 359 monthly payments, just like that, for only $329.79. In other words, pay on time, it cost you over $2,300 to get this equity. When you pay, when the bank is not expecting it, you get your equity for free. One more time. Every time you pay on time, it costs you 88% of your money to get this equity of $300 and some dollars. But when you give that money to the bank when they're not expecting it, you get the equity for free. You don't have to pay a single dime. You don't have to pay any interest to get this $329.79 applied to principal. Not one dime. Did you know your mortgage worked like that? This is why they don't want you to know. This is why it's not taught anywhere except here. And anybody else who's watching my videos. Okay? So what would happen, folks? What would happen if we did this? I pay my mortgage on line one. I'm looking at this, and what if I wanted to do this? I had a little bit of money in the bank. What if I gave them the $329.79 on line two, the $331.71, and the $333.65? Okay, about $1,000. I got a little bit of money in the bank. I put $1,000 on this mortgage early when the bank is not expecting it. Do they have to subtract it from what I owe? Will I be paid down to line 4 on my amortization schedule? And if I am, okay. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to give them this. I'm going to give them this. I'm going to give them this. Okay. And so my next mortgage payment would be where? I would be on line 5 on my next mortgage payment for the next month. This becomes February's new payment right here. What happened to this interest cost and this interest cost and this interest cost? The money that the investor was looking to discount my payments by. Okay, we're still in the mechanic phase. Okay, I'm getting you to understand some of the basic mechanics of amortization and why this is such a disease. Now I'm going to show you something that the investor really does not want you to know. We're going to take a look here, ladies and gentlemen, at, I'm just going to put the math here so you can believe it. You can do this yourself. Okay. Our payment, regular payment, is $26.61. Listen, Silverline, you don't have to type it in the chat. Anybody can talk to me. You can come up to the stage and talk. You know, I know some of you may be at work or whatever and you can't, but raise your hand and come up and talk. Okay? Come up and talk if you can. But if you need to put it in the chat, I'm trying to look at several screens here. Okay? It says, do you mean full payment line 1 and only principal line 2 through 4? Yeah, that's what I mean. Full payment on line 1. Okay? Full payment on line 1, but only the principal payment on line 2, 3, and 4. That's it. See, when you're doubling up on a mortgage, you're not giving them the whole payment. You're just giving them principal. And it could be any amount of principal. It doesn't have to be exactly these amounts. Okay? I'm just giving you these exact amounts because it's easy to see. I don't have to go through a whole lot of math to show you how much interest you save if you only gave them $125. You see, it can be figured out, but this is easy. Okay. So if I give them these three, I knock off 3 payments on my mortgage I never have to make. Okay. I've just reduced my 360-month payment by 3 payments already by giving them money early. Do you see that? Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. And I just eliminated the interest on these 3 lines. Okay. Over $7,000 in interest I never have to pay the investor now. Oh boy, the investor's not very happy with that. Not at all. Okay. Now I need you to watch this part. Okay. Here's the disease. We are now attacking the disease, not just treating symptoms. How to attack this disease. So let's put this back on the screen. So our payment, our regular payment is 2661.21. How much of this do we pay in 1 year? So 1 year worth of payments that we pay on time. Okay. We just gave that to the bank. We're going to multiply it by 12. The total amount is we paid out $31,934.52 in 1 year. It's a payment we can afford, ladies and gentlemen. We've been told we can afford it. And we're making our mortgage payment, and our kids are still going to school. We're making our mortgage payment, and we're still going out to eat. We're making our mortgage payment, and we're still paying all of our other bills. We still drive what we want to drive. We vacation where we want to vacation. And we've just paid out $31,934.52 to the investor. Out of that $31,934, how much of it counts to pay down your mortgage? Here it is, $4,063.23. Let me compare that. I just paid out on this mortgage $31,934.52, and this is all that counts for me. $4,063. Is that it? That's it. This is the disease that is affecting you. Look at this. $27,871.29. My payment was discounted by this much. This is the disease. We have learned to live with it. I need people who want to learn to live without it. Do you want to learn to live without this disease, where they can keep doing this to you? Silverline say, wow, that's insane. But that's what we've been doing for the last 89 years. We've been taught to do this. Let me ask you something, ladies and gentlemen. This $4,063.23. Now, I'm going to go through a strategy here. I'm going to go through this so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And it's going to take several steps. And I need you to do the steps with me. And if you forget some of the steps, just watch the video again. I'm going to prove to you what's really happening with this mortgage. I'm going to prove it to you. Okay? So we need to do this. We need to duplicate this. So I have 2 mortgage things on the screen. So let me ask you, when we add all these principal payments up for 1 year, it comes to $4,063.23. That's exactly what, if you add up all the principal payments for a year, this is what it comes to. When you add up all the interest payments for the year, you can go to cumulative interest and look here. Don't look to your amortization schedule you got with your mortgage to see this. They will not give you cumulative principal. They will not give you cumulative interest. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that after 1 year, you've only paid the mortgage down by $4,000, but you've given $27,800 to the investor. They don't want you to know that. So don't look there. Don't ask them to provide you that. They're not educated on this subject, and they don't want you to be educated on this subject. So if I know I'm going to pay this loan down by $4,063.23 in 1 year, here's my question to you. Do I have to pay the $4,000 in 12 monthly installments? Do I have to pay it in 12 monthly installments? Or if I had it, could I give it to the bank all at once if I had it? So let's do a little bit of math. The answer is yes, by the way. You can prepay this if you had it. You can pay it on line one. Let's do the math. My mortgage started out at $400,000, right? There it is, $400,000. What if I gave them the $4,063.23 first on line one, all up front? They would have to subtract that from what I owe. So we're going to subtract $4,063.23. And we're going to get $395,936.77 right there. Boom. Now, you can do that in 12 monthly installments, or you could do it in one installment. If you give it to them all at once, would you be paid down to line 12 in 1 month? Which means your next mortgage payment for February will be on what line of this schedule? I need you to put it in the chat. I'm going to wait on it. What line, if you give them all this money, you're paid down to line 12 in 1 month? Uh-oh, something happened to my screen. I lost signal on my screen. Doggone it. I can't see my screen. At least you guys can see it, but I can't. I lost the screen. Shoot. I don't know how to get it back. Let me shoot. Hold on for a second, folks. One of my screens. Wow. I'm afraid to unplug anything because I might lose more. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move everything. Let me see if I can move it over. I'm going to move it over to this screen here, which is still working. And I'm going to stop. Okay, we're going to stop this share. All right, there we go. And I'm going to show this. Okay, we're going to, that's what happens when you're doing live, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to share this screen instead because I can still see it. And I'll fix the other screen later. Okay, there we go. I have to move it over to screen 3. Okay, there we go. And we're back. Okay, now I can see it too. Okay, so let's move. Okay, I've got my. Okay. All right, I need to bring my calculator up so I can see it. There we go. And there it is. Now we brought that back. So now here's what I have. 395,936.77. Now we're paid down to here. I need to show you that if I prepay this, it saves me $27,000 in interest. $27,000 in interest. One more time. If you prepay that, it saves you $27,000 in interest. All right. So now, how do I know that for sure? Okay. Remember, and I need you to start writing this down. The total amount of interest that the bank wants from you on this loan is $558,035.60. So put that in your notes. Okay. Write it down. $558,035.60. That's how much interest they want. I need to know how much interest I'm saving if I prepay. Okay. So now I have If I prepay this, this is how much I owe now. So if I copy this and put it in my put it in a different mortgage calculator, okay, with the same payment and the same interest rate, this is how much I owe now. I can paste it in here. All right. I have to get rid of, Brett Whistle does not like commas, so you have to take that out. Okay. I'm taking out my 360 because I don't have that many payments left now. We're going to take this out, delete that. My old payment, we're going to keep. Okay. My old payment of 2661.21, we're going to keep that and put it in this new system. There it is. Okay. Remember, get rid of that comma. Now, I put it in the wrong place. Okay. Cut and paste. There we go. Now, when I do this, Brett Whistle will give me how many payments I have left on this. Now, remember, we're comparing the $395,936.77. That's exactly what we have here. All right. On line 12. Okay. We have that on line 12. We've given the bank $4,000 up front, and we've made our very first payment. Now we have a second payment. What does our second payment do? Okay. So now we take a look at here. How many payments do we have left? Calculate. 348 payments left. That's exactly 12 payments shy of 360, isn't it? Exactly 12 payments shy. So now we're going to go down and take a look. How much interest do they want now? If our mortgage started here at $395,936.77 at the same interest rate with the same payment, we only have 348 payments left. Here's how much interest the bank wants now. Okay? They want $530, $530,164.31. Okay, so if we put this on the screen, remember, now we're going to do a little subtraction. How much interest did they want overall? Okay, let's go down to the summary. They wanted $558,000. We gave them $4,000 up front. Now, let's get rid of this advertising. Now they're going to get $530,164.31. Boom, just like that. Now let's do the subtraction. Let me bring up the calculator. Okay, so our first total interest cost was $558,035.60. We're going to subtract. Okay, we're going to subtract now the new total interest payment of $530. Subtract $530,164.31 equals $27,871.29. If we go back to our original one here and pull up our calculator, this number matches exactly this number here. Look at that. We just saved $27,871.29. We never have to pay. Look at that. Do you see now why investors to pay? Listen, you're moving your loan from point A to point B, from $400,000 to $395,936.77. If you do it the bank's way, it will cost you $27,871.29. $871.29 to do it their way, to pay your loan down by $4,063. But if you give them the $4,063 up front, how much does it cost you? Right there, $2,333.33. The interest on line one is all you will pay to pay your loan down to here. Folks, that is a huge difference. Do you want to continue dealing with this disease of interest? We have a monoculture when it comes to the information we've all been given when it comes to this debt, when it comes to interest, when it comes to amortization, when it comes to the mechanics of how all of this works. We have been given this information, and everything else we've been given only treats the symptoms. We're now getting to the point. After 89 years, we're now getting to the point where we can start treating the disease and eradicating the disease and learn how to pay our mortgages, our credit cards, our car loans, our student loans. We can pay everything off in about 7 to 9 years. Do you have a church? Does your church have debt? How would you like to be able to learn these concepts and pay off your church in about 5 years without extra giving from the members? How about that? Do you have a business with a loan? Do you have a business with an SBA loan? How would you like to continue to invest in business, continue to do everything that you're doing, but pay the loan off by paying when you want to instead of when the bank wants you to? Pay it when you want to and pay it off in 5 years. How would you like to be able to do that? I'm telling you, folks, get a savings and earnings report today. Get it today. And you can start learning how to do this right away. So let me take this off because we're getting ready to end things now. But I need you to see I need you to see something here. We're going to bring some information up. Okay? I'm going to try to bring this over here. Uh-oh, there it is. Okay? I'm going to try to bring this over here. And we're going to bring some of this information up so that you can see some of this and just have a little bit of an idea of what we're doing. Okay, there it is. There's one. Here's another one. I'm just bringing up some. I told you can get a free savings and earnings report. I want to bring some of these earnings report up so that you can see for yourself a little bit what I'm talking about here. So let me open up 3 of these. Okay, here's one. Okay, here's another one. Okay, I got 3. I'm only going to use 3. Okay, so here we go. Let's put this on back on the screen. Okay, there we are. So this is a situation where we had a client come to us with 2 mortgages of $634,000, 3 loans, $197,000, but they had credit card debt of $201,000. Credit cards. How many credit cards did they have? 12 credit cards. They came to $201,000 worth of credit card debt. Ouch. Doing it the bank's way, the bank wanted $692,000 interest on that for a total repayment of $1,725,000. When they came to us, we showed them how we can take them from $692,000 in interest payments all the way down to $179,954, which means their effective interest rate. Let me do this. Okay. Their effective interest rate is, man, why won't it? There it is. Okay, there it is. I wanted to make it a little bigger. Their effective interest rate is 1.10, meaning this. When you get your savings report, you're going to get something that looks like this. And you go to ice10k.com to get it. ice10k.com. Somebody put it back in the chat for me. Ice, the number 10, the letter K.com, ice10k.com, and click on getting a savings and earnings report. Once you put in your information and my team verifies that information as correct, then we can print this out for you. And for this particular client, they learned that they could pay $179,000 instead of the $692,000 the bank wanted, which means their effective interest rate is 1.10. 1.1. That means if they got that interest rate from the bank and from their credit card companies, okay, if they got that information up front to pay $179,000 instead, they would have to have an interest rate of 1.1 across the board from the very beginning. We can make their interest rates act like what we want them to act like. And in this case, all the way down to 1.1. That's what we're talking about. That's how you control the disease. You manage it to the point where it becomes almost undetectable in your body, and then you can flush it out and get rid of it. You can use it to your benefit now. So their interest savings is 74%. They can pay off not in 36 years, but they can pay off in 9 years. Look at that. Here's another one. This one is a little smaller debt, $188,000, okay? And they had $73,000 in credit card debt. The bank wanted $349,000 in interest. They're now going to pay $97,000 in interest, which means their effective interest rate is 2.23%. You can't borrow money that cheaply. All right. But you can affect how much interest the investors get so that it looks so you can change your interest rate without actually refinancing to 2.23. How would you like to take control of your financial health? Okay. Start doing what you need to do to keep from making this disease making you broke. And so you can't leave things for your children and your children's children. It's time out for that. Here's the last one. Here's a commercial example. Somebody who's in business had over $2 million worth of debt, $2,236,000. Okay. They were supposed to pay $1,123,000 in interest. We got them down to $231,000 in interest using their current budget, meaning they're saving 79% of the interest that the bank wanted from them, or $891,000. The investor that bought this is really upset. I mean, really upset, because they were looking to get this interest for a long time, 25 years worth of interest. Yeah, but this investor can be done in 4.9 and only pay out $231,000, which means their effective interest rate is 0.67, less than 1%. Less than 1%. Folks, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you. Do we want to continue to work with this disease, or do we want to do something else? Okay. My book, okay, My book on Amazon is a 6-time bestseller. It is the only one that even begins to explain this concept. Does my book give you an ABC 1, 2, 3 as to what to do to eliminate all this interest efficiently? No, but it does give you some information on why you need to do something different. It gives you some basic understanding. It's a basic textbook. Okay. Just like a medical book won't teach you how to be, you can't become a surgeon by just reading the book. Okay. It's not going to do that, but it will help you to understand what's happening so that you can get some experience behind you, that when you adopt all of our system, the opportunity cost calculator, our technology, and our unique coaching system, which informs you and teaches you and coaches you on this new way of thinking. It will help you to get there. Okay. So let's do what we can now, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're going to be in Miami, if you live in Miami, I'm actually going to be speaking at a conference there in Miami, the BiteCon. Okay, look it up, BITE-con conference. I'm going to be speaking in Miami this Friday. Look it up. Go to the internet, do your research, and if you're in Miami, I will be there. Okay, I will be there. All right, I'd like to meet you in person. All right, call my office. They'll tell you how to get in touch with me while I'm in Miami. Everything is on my ice10k.com. That is my digital business card. So let me take a quick look and see if there are any more questions in here. Okay. All right. So is everybody seeing the screen right now? Can you see the screen? I hope you can. Okay. So I am now, let's go ahead and take this off. All right. And let's close this out. Anyway, I got one more commercial to play before we get out of here, but I want to make sure I can see any questions. All right. I want to make sure that you understand what we're talking about here. The disease of debt. The disease really isn't the debt. It's the interest on the debt. And we can learn how to manage that disease a lot better. And when I come back next week, maybe we can talk more about a lot of the things that we have been taught to do that we absolutely should not do. We've been taught to do what we should not do. But just as a teaser, can I just show you one thing? Let me show you just one thing you shouldn't do. Okay? One thing you shouldn't do. Remember the $400,000 mortgage at 7%? Some people are quite fortunate. They make a lot of money. They could, let's say you could put $100,000 down on this loan and have a $300,000 loan instead of a $400,000 loan. Everybody and their brother is teaching that they should do that. So the loan is going to look more like this. If we put it down, we put 300,000 instead. Okay. At 7%, 360 months. There we go. Here's our new payment. Okay. That's what we're looking at. Wow. 300,000 at 7%, 1995 instead of 2661. Oh. Total interest cost. All right. 558,000, but if I put 100,000 down, total interest cost 418,000. 418 versus 558, and my payment is smaller. But remember this. I need y'all to look at this. I need y'all to see this. Okay. Shatika, how are you doing? Winning and well. Haven't seen you in a good while. We need to talk. All right. So 558,000. I could do that, or I can get the $400,000 loan. And if I have the $400,000, okay, if I have the $400,000, do I still have my $100,000? Do I still have it? Yes, I do. I intended to put it on the mortgage anyway, didn't I? I intended as a down payment, but I still have it. I got the $400,000 mortgage. So what have we learned today, ladies and gentlemen? Can I take that $100,000 and use it as a prepayment instead? Prepay. What would happen to this loan? Let's scroll down. I'm going to make my first principal payment. I'm going to make my first mortgage payment. And then that $100,000 I was going to use as a down payment, I can use it as what's called a prepayment and add it to principal. And when I do, I have to scroll down and take a look at cumulative principal, the third column, until I get to $100,000. This is what your $100,000 prepaid will do for this mortgage instead of $100,000 as a down payment. Don't ever do it. You take off, look at this, 176 payments you never have to make. And you still have a $300,000 loan. Okay, 180 payments. You know what that is? That's 15 years. This $100,000 prepaid takes off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, takes off 14 years, 8 months off this mortgage when you prepay the $100,000 instead of using it as a down payment. And look at the amount of interest you just saved. $368,000 right now. Okay. So, Silverline, the bank will actually take this much. Will they allow it? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So now you're asking me questions when it's time to go. Okay. Now you're asking me. But let me see if I can pull something up for you. All right. All right. Because let me see here. Okay. Let me see if I can do a little research. All right. Let's see. The right to prepay. Let me see if I can bring something up here. The borrower's right to prepay. Okay. It is your right to do this. Okay. The right to prepay refers to the borrower's ability to pay off a debt, like a mortgage or a loan, before its scheduled maturity date, potentially saving on interest payments and avoiding penalties, though prepayment penalties are sometimes charged. They're never charged on a mortgage here in the United States. Okay. So the right to prepay is also known as prepayment privilege. Did you know prepayment privilege exists in every single mortgage in the US? Every single residential mortgage has prepayment privilege. I mean, it is your right to do this. You don't even have to ask. It's written right in your contract. In fact, it's probably pretty close to the mortgage note page. You can pull out your mortgage, and in there, in your mortgage papers, is the same language, your right to prepay this mortgage. They have to accept it. That is a very good question, Silverline. Thank you for asking it. It is in your paperwork already. How about that? Wow, 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 ladies and gentlemen. I am just, you listen, Silverline, you are welcome. You are welcome. You're welcome. So now let me ask you something. Are you all going to keep doing what you've always done? Or are you going to go to ICE 10K? Oops. ICE10K.com. Are you going to go here? Okay. Are you going to watch some of these videos? Are you going to save this to your contacts on your phone? Are you going to do that? Are you going to scroll down under E.T., the hip hop preacher? Are you going to scroll down underneath this picture and click on the button that says get your savings and earnings report, which will take you to this website? Don't waste another dollar paying off the wrong debt. Get your free savings report now. Some of you have debt and you had it for a long time, but some of you are not in trouble. Some of you are doing quite well, but you just now found out today that the disease is not the debt. The disease is paying 3 times the amount of interest than you need to pay. That's the disease. That's what's draining the financial life out of you, because we've all been given the same type of information on how to handle debt, which actually translates into learning how to live with the disease by treating the symptoms. If you're tired of living with the disease, go to ice10k.com, get your savings report today, and take the first step in learning how not to give all that money to the bank. Fill out this information, then you click on yes, I want to save, and then it'll take you into the page where you can put in your financial information and learn the month, day, and year you can be debt free. And you can learn it for free. There's absolutely no reason for you to keep doing what you've always done. Let's break out of that cycle. Let's not keep living the lie. Let's not keep accepting the information we've always been told about how debt works, because that has caused us to all suffer from the same disease with absolutely no immunity. We're offering the cure. The P.I.L.L method is your cure for this disease. P.I.L.L stands for prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. I want you to see one last thing, and then we're going to go. Okay? So let me take a quick break here, ladies and gentlemen, and we shall be right back. How many want to know how to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years? You can do all of this without refinancing, without change to your budget, without sacrificing lifestyle.
Me and my husband do the P.I.L.L method, and last year we were able to pay down $33,000 on our mortgage without feeling like we were poor. We still did tons of entertaining things and enjoyed our family.
You don't have to eat beans and rice every day. You don't have to cut up your credit cards. You don't have to drive a 30-year-old car. You don't have to sell pizzas at night to pay off your mortgage. All you need to do is pay the bank less interest. That's what we're talking about today. Here is what P.I.L.L method stands for: prepayment of principal, isolation of principal amounts, leverage, and liquidity. You understand it? You have a way of getting out of debt more efficiently. The interest rate you're quoted is not the interest rate you pay. You think you're buying a $500,000 home. The true cost of that home is what? $758,000. Total interest paid as a percentage of principal, 51.777%. That's what's going on with this loan. The ability to read and defeat an amortization schedule is not taught at any level of financial education. I need you to understand the power of a penny. You will not hear what I'm talking about from Dave Ramsey. Do you know why? Because I own the copyright. I literally wrote the book.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for participating. Thank you for putting your questions in. And I'm going to be back next week But before I get next week, I'm going to Miami. So I hope to see you in Miami. If you live there, give us a call. I'd like you to look me up while I'm there. I'd like to meet you face to face if that's at all possible. And listen, I'm also looking for other speaking dates and opportunities. If your organization needs a speaker, a keynote speaker, contact us. We may be able to fit you into our calendar this year even. So listen, thank you so very much for being here. We'll be back next week. Don't forget to get my book on Amazon, The P.I.L.L Method. Don't forget to fill out your savings and earnings report so that you can know the month, day, and year you can be debt free. All right, folks. See you next week.